public hospitals in Zimbabwe do not have a single working radiotherapy machine. So if you or I or any of our relatives get cancer today, we are going to die because there's no treatment. The government, the president and his ministers and his government directors can jump on a private plane and go and get treatment in another country. You and I do not have such a luxury. And what these men and women are stealing from this economy in a month from gold alone, just in 1 month, can buy 82 radiotherapy machines. 82 radiotherapy machines can be bought by what the Angels, the Henriettas of this world and the Macmillans are stealing from the Zimbabwean economy every month. So in other words, Zimbabwe could be having 4,459 maternity theaters built every month. Zimbabwe could be buying 82 radiotherapy machines every month. That is the depth of the looting that is taking place in Zimbabwe. And what we saw is only episode 1. There's going to be episode 2, episode 3, and episode 4. As you would have seen my latest tweet, I received a Twitter message from an African cabinet minister from a country that used to support the sanctions line, that used to think that the issue in Zimbabwe is actually sanctions and not corruption. The minister simply said that Gold Mafia documentary, that Gold Mafia documentary literally reduced me to tears. That's how much bad it is. But they've only watched 1 of the 4 films, 3 yet to come. That's how bad the situation is. And I want to hear what you guys think. But at the meantime, I'm trying to locate my guests on the Twitter space. So just give me a minute so that I can bring them up. I would like to tell everyone that tonight it's not me who's going to do the talking. I've been doing the talking for a very long time. I've gone to prison for these issues. I've been jailed by Mnangagwa's regime because I exposed the corruption that his niece, Henrietta Rushwaya, was involved with the National Prosecution Authority of Zimbabwe. I'm actually on trial as we speak. I'm going back to court on the 29th of March, where they are accusing me of having spoken about something that was before the courts. They say it was pending, and yet there was nothing before the courts. I now understand why I was jailed. I now understand why they are pursuing this case. I got in the way of their big money. I got in the way of the looting of gold. I got in the way for that element of reporting to my followers that this is what's happening. I probably stopped a supply of millions of US dollars coming into country because Henrietta had to go to prison after I had reported that this is what they're trying to do. She ended up in prison. But now I understand the amounts of money that were at stake. That's why I had to go to prison. And that's why they are so determined to make sure that I get convicted over something that is not true, to say that I spoke about an issue that was pending when I tweeted on the 26th Henrietta went to court on the 27th. And when we applied that it's not true, this charge is defective, the magistrate said you were imminently, the issue was imminently pending. That is what has been happening behind the scenes. But I'm glad that the world now understands, because sometimes when you speak on your own for a very long time, you end up sounding like you're a mad person. And some of these things, compatriots, they'll end up thinking that, oh, this person is a loose nut. He's always talking about this. He's always talking about that. And I'm glad that the things that me and many others, I'm not the only one, have been talking about, have now been projected to the rest of the world to understand that, oh, that guy is actually not mad. This is what they've been doing. And that guy is not mad to say that sanctions are not the issue. This is what they've been doing. That guy is not mad to say that the whole country's health delivery system does not have paracetamol because of corruption. Now people understand. And now even African, like this minister, this cabinet minister from an African government who got in touch with me, who comes from a government that used to fall for this useless line of sanctions, they now understand what the issues are in Zimbabwe. And the tragedy is that it's not about all the corruption that we talk about. This corruption is just about gold. You can imagine the corruption that's taking place in diamonds, in lithium, in platinum. Zimbabwe has got 65 minerals that are mined every day. Out of 65, today we just got to hear about one of those 65 minerals. And we got to hear and understand that one mineral called gold is worth billions of dollars a year for Zimbabweans. Zimbabweans are not asking for a lot. They just ask for public hospitals that work, public transport system that works, roads that are surfaced. It's basic stuff. When someone steals from the economy and smuggles gold worth 165 million US dollars, they are stealing 165 kilometers of road every month. That's how much 165 million dollars can do. It can build $1 million can build a kilometer of a highway road, what you call motorways in Britain, or freeway in America. It can build 1 kilometer, $1 million. So when they're depriving us of 165 million dollars, they are depriving us of 165 kilometers every month. Now, if you want to understand the depth of this, 165 kilometers a month is 1,980 kilometers a year. This government has been in power for 5 years. It means 9,900 kilometers of road has been stolen from you and I. And I hope that it's time the opposition wakes up and starts talking about these things in the way that they are supposed to. I hope that the media wakes up and starts talking about these things in the way that they are supposed to. Because me and a few others have been like mad people talking about these things every day. Every day. Such that even people who don't support ZANU-PF started to doubt our sanity. That why is it they're always talking about these things every day? But now you understand. So whilst I wait for my guests to come on board, I will give the floor to Mayor of Kwekwe. Please go ahead. Mayor of Kwekwe, can you hear me? Okay, Nonoka, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Hopewell. So my name is Akim from Mutare. So I just want to say, the truth will always come out. So goes the Shona adage. So the truth about ZANU-PF corruption and abuse of power, I'm so happy that is finally coming out. So from an opposition point of view, guys, this is at our disposal. We need to use this, mobilize people to vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Whilst I'm trying to get the guest to come on board, I'll go to Shepard. Please, Shepard, go ahead.
Thanks, Hopewell. Evening, everyone. You know, most of us have known that this is happening, but what this documentary has done is bring it home. You know, it has just brought it home, and most of us was like, whoa, you know, it really just brought it that much closer. But I like the way that you've put it, how it affects the men on the street. You know, there are a lot of things that are happening in Zim. The hospitals are not working. The public utilities are not working. I mean, excuse me. People can go for 2-3 weeks without a single drop of water coming out of the taps. And this is in an urban area. People go for 3 weeks without water coming out of the taps. And the excuse is the country is broke. And yet we have tons and tons of gold that are leaving the country illegally. And then they go out, they benefit. A few people, select individuals were at the top. I mean, that is completely unacceptable. But the 2 points that I wanted to bring across, I've been in other spaces where they've been laying the blame completely on Hubert Angel, one of the ambassadors who was appearing in the documentary. However, there's one thing that I want to bring across. The president who appointed this ambassador, either he is complicit or he is completely incompetent. Because with all the infrastructure that surrounds and supports a president of a country, he either knew when he appointed this person as an ambassador, or he found out after. And if he found out after, he still kept this person in that position. And that's complicit and incompetence at the same time. So that's one of the points that I wanted to put across. So there is no way that the president of the country can run away from this one. He needs to come clean, clean up his act, and get rid of this person in his area. The other thing that I want to bring across that not many people have talked about, there's a lot of money flowing around. Most of this money, yes, it's cash, but at some point, quite a bit of this money enters the banking system. We know most of people who have quite a lot of this money, they bank not only in Zimbabwe, but they bank in South Africa, they bank in the UK, they bank in America. I mean, they're all over the shore. So what role have the banks played in all these illicit movements of money? What measures have the banks put in place so that they shut people like this down? Because I see quite a huge gap that has been utilized by these guys, and they've made use of supposedly safe systems that are supposed to have measures in place to be almost foolproof, I guess, to such things. But they seem to be flying. These guys seem to be flying under the radar. No one has got an issue with them. Thank you, Hope. I think those are my 2 points.
No, thank you very much. I'm still trying to get my guest on top. They're trying to figure out how to request the microphone. So whilst you guys are talking, I will be trying to do that. So I'll go to Mucha. Please go ahead, Mucha. Mucha, can you hear me? Hello, Mucha, can you hear me? Okay, I will go to Nice NFT. Please go ahead.
Hey.
Nice.
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead. I can hear you.
Thank you for the space, man. Like I like the energy you bring. Is that this has to be used right now? This energy and this information should not be overlooked. And for me, the biggest question, I'm not one who is gonna tell somebody not to vote, but I think what we need to do is we need to look at the bigger picture of this. Okay, this is like we set off in a race. And in this race, there are rules, right? And the rules have been set that the one racer in this race is going to go with an unfair playing field than the other 10 racers in the track. And we known that. We had the elimination report. That one came up flawed. Everybody just ignored it, never did anything, no action against it. And they kept on pushing for, we need to vote. We need to vote. So now we come up with this, and people are still pushing to go vote. I mean, I'm just trying to put things in perspective, right? Because when do we stop making excuses for the problems that are presented to us and put right in front of our hands as tools? Which is going, because we can't keep pushing to go into a situation where we know is already corrupted before we even reach to the polling station. So now if we do put our energy in trying to focus on elections right now, instead of drumming this beat that we have right now, this should be the beat that is playing in the streets in Zimbabwe. This should be the beat that's going to make people say, tomorrow, my kids, we're not going to school. We're going to go sit in the public park somewhere, and we want to have a peaceful demonstration because we need real answers. We need immediately for them to be people who have been named and implicated, the smaller fish, the lower fruit, hanging lowest on the, we need to pick those out of the equation. So like, this is what I'm saying, is that the focus shouldn't be blindsided by continue lying to ourselves that we are going to win in the ballot box when we already have enough tools right now to overturn the entire structure of the southern region of Africa. They're still talking about border laws, and because the one guy in South Africa says, we want open borders, let Zimbabweans come in and go as they wish, and everyone's fighting on that. In Zimbabwe, we've got each other fighting each other on this, but we're ignoring this one big information that we had, is that we are captured by a whole program of mafia system, and they are playing this. They've been playing the blind politics for all these years. So it's nothing new. When do we put a stop on it, is what I'm saying. When do we take this powerful tool we have? This is the most powerful tool Zimbabwean citizens have ever had in their possession since 1980. Are we going to just like squander this and focus on the X in the box and the ink on the thumb? That is foolish. This should like eliminate everything, and we want to hold these people accountable right now. That's my point.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I hear where you're coming from. I think, to sort of expand on your point, if people are making this amount of money every week and banking it in Dubai, this money is not coming to Zimbabwe, as you heard in the film. This money is left in Dubai. They buy homes for their girlfriends. They give money to their sons and daughters to buy homes in Dubai. They go and buy homes for their girlfriends in South Africa, whilst hospitals don't even have paracetamol. So when people are making this amount of money, the question is, at what point are they prepared to allow a free and fair election? And at what point will they say, no, we have lost, we are going to leave power? And with the extent to which they are making money that we now know, is it feasible for these people to actually say, we are now leaving office, we have lost the election, considering the amounts of money that they are stealing? These people are cruel. These people are so cruel that they make millions a week, but they are not prepared to buy a paracetamol pill that costs 2 cents. They're not prepared to buy radiotherapy machines for people that are dying from cancer. They're not prepared to buy MRI scan machines for citizens that need to check whether they've got something, whether there's something wrong with their bodies. They're not prepared to do that. Kariba, which is the biggest man-made lake in the world, that town is a tourist resort where these men and women make money, and we don't see this money. Kariba does not have an X-ray machine as we speak. An X-ray machine that costs $10,000. That's how callous and evil these people are. They are not prepared to invest even in the most basic of things, like an X-ray machine. They drive huge cars. One guy did a job for me over the weekend, and he told me that he builds things for these ZANU-PF ministers, and he gets paid at the Ministry of Finance for work that has been done at their private residences. And he was telling me that some people will get cash of up to 200,000, some contractors, for work that they've done for these men and women. But they're not prepared to buy IV paracetamol using our money. It's not like they're using their money, our money. That's how evil these men and women are. They are prepared to loot and plunder and smuggle and launder money. And people die in this country. And you find some idiot trying to defend this kind of callousness, this kind of evil, this kind of men and women who do not care at all about their own kith and kin. We were oppressed by the Smith regime and previous colonial governments, but they built roads, they built schools, they built hospitals. This government, this ZANU government, has never built a single central hospital since it came into power. It has never built a single maternity theater at the biggest hospital in this country since it came to power. So if Smith had not built these things, where would this country be today? If the evil racist regime had not built these things, where would this country be today? Yasin, please go ahead. Yasin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Hopewell. I think my contribution is this. We've been aware of the problem. And what the documentary has simply done is put it in our faces, more so than what we had thought before. But in as much as we're expending, a lot of energy talking about the problem, the scale, the scope of it, I think the question that has to be answered, or which we need to focus on, is what happens now? The situation, as you rightly pointed out, you've been speaking out on this for years. We have the documentary that's come out. We've had, information about the $15 billion missing from years ago. We've had this information. But what happens? So to follow our track record, is that outrageous things happen, and we'll talk about it, we'll complain about it for a few minutes or for a couple of days, and then that's it. And it would be a shame if that were to be the same situation with this documentary, where the nation and everybody is absolutely outraged, but no one is focusing on what do we do now. Because we could speak of, if we said protests, for example, it's highly unlikely that many people will do such a thing, because, as you pointed out, hospitals are just dilapidated. There's nothing to speak of. So if people go out in March, for example, chances are you will be assaulted, you will be attacked. And, in our minds, we're thinking, well, ndikarowa and ndinamari kwenda kuchipatara. That's it. And that's a real fear for people. So I think the question we ought to focus on is, what can we do about it right now that's practical, that creates movement, as opposed to expending so much energy, just going over the scope of it, because it's something we've been knowing. It's not new. So the question again is, what do we do now? Thank you, Hopewell.
No, thank you very much. I totally agree with you. And I think, this has gone beyond just saying, let's march, let's protest, and let's do this. Because we know the drill. We know what's going to happen. I think this now requires leadership. I mean, I've been looking at the Twitter handles of our political leadership in the opposition, the ones that say they're government in waiting. And, the top leadership, I'm not seeing it. They haven't commented yet. I guess maybe they'll comment tomorrow. But today they haven't said anything. I've just seen a few responses from them. You see, the opposition must understand that there will come a time when people will just disconnect if they don't show leadership in these instances. A lot of people were asking them to speak when the trailer, the Aljazeera trailer first came out. And I said to myself, no, maybe they're waiting for the film to come out. And now that the first film has come out, I expect Nelson Chamisa to speak. Because, I mean, the primary issue, the central issue in our suffering in this country is corruption. So when our leaders don't speak when such things come out, it just demoralizes people. People will be like, so what's going to happen? The leader is quiet, So I hope he's going to speak tomorrow. I hope he's going to say something tomorrow. Because government ministers from sitting governments in Africa are writing to me about these issues. Some of them are in this Twitter space, listening to what's going on. I see people from Zambia. I see people from the Zambian ruling party. I see people from Tanzania opposition in this space. I see them. I'm sure you see them too. Joseph Kalimbwe is here listening to what's going on in our country. So I hope that, our leaders will come out and speak. They will speak using their Twitter handles, whatever it is. I see the foreign news editor of the biggest broadcaster in Africa in this space. Sophie is here. So these are issues that are big. I see right now we've got 8,014 people listening to this Twitter space. This is a big issue. The opposition must learn to read the room. They must learn to understand how people are feeling. People are angered. People are angry about what they saw. And they've seen just a quarter of what Aljazeera has got in these documentary films. So I hope they will respond to how people feel about these issues, because these are issues that affect us, that affect our parents and grandparents. And I've always told people that it doesn't mean if you go to South Africa or to Britain and start working there, or America or Australia, you are now okay. No, you are not okay. People in the diaspora are not okay. They are having to spend money that they shouldn't be spending by sending us to hospitals when we fall sick, those of us that live here in Zimbabwe, by sending our kids to school by paying rent for us. That money they could have been investing in the welfare of their own children. They could have been going to holidays with their children, to Spain, to Portugal with their own children. But they're having to sacrifice the welfare of their children in order to assist the extended family. And if we don't understand that the corruption in Zimbabwe does not only affect those of us that live here, but it affects those that live outside Zimbabwe who are having to forgo a lot of things in order for them to make sure that the extended family is looked after. If a mother or father or grandfather or grandmother falls sick, someone who wanted to go to Spain on holiday will have to drop that idea and send man home. Looking after someone in hospital in Zimbabwe, it's so expensive. It's so expensive. A specialist doctor in Zimbabwe costs $165 at the very least per visit. A physician. In Britain, people don't pay to go and see a physician or a GP. If they go to see a physician at a hospital, it's taken care of by the state. But in Zimbabwe, the state cannot take care of it because the money is being looted. The natural resources are being plundered by the people that are running the state. It's not that Zimbabwe does not have the resources to look after its own citizens and those that live in Zimbabwe. It has those resources. To run the 6 central hospitals in Zimbabwe costs $55 million. To run all of them for 1 year, it costs only $55 million. So, in other words, what the Henriettas and their friends are stealing from us and from the state per month, what they steal per month will run the hospitals in Zimbabwe for 3 years. What they steal in 1 month runs hospitals in Zimbabwe. All the 6 central hospitals will run on the money they steal per month for 3 years. That is the extent of the looting and the plunder and the smuggling and the laundering of money that is taking place in Zimbabwe. That's how bad it is. We have put this on the doorstep of the government for more than 5 years since Mnangagwa became president. We've been saying these things. They never listened to us. Today, the whole world knows the truth now. Forget about me being arrested in 2020 for Henrietta. That's a small issue. There are people that died because hospitals were not working. There are people that died because they were involved in car accidents and there was no ambulance to pick them up and drop them at the nearest health facility. That is how serious this issue is. Forget about us having an election stolen. The real issue is the people that died and cannot be recovered again. We cannot turn back the hands of time to bring these people back. And that's how serious this issue is. And this is why I keep saying that the opposition must up its game. Because you can't expect to walk into State House when you don't have a voters roll and you're up against people who are stealing like this. Who steal so much. They steal so much that they don't care about the welfare of their own people. They don't care at all. That's how bad the situation is. Anyway, Muche, go ahead. Shepard, please go ahead.
Thanks, Hope. You know, it's really sad. It's scary. The amount of money that is simply being looted out of the country. I mean, Zimbabwe is not a big country. In terms of population, it's round about the population of Gauteng. But if we look at the resources that the country is blessed with, you know, in terms of minerals, natural resources, it's really amazing. But we have become a country of beggars. We have become a country of of poor people, border jumpers, a country of sick people because we can't even access healthcare, all because we have a government in place that does not care about the people, a government in place that is happy to facilitate shady deals that loot what is due to the country. You know, it's really sad. We could be having tarred roads right across Zimbabwe. We could be having even planning for the future a sovereign wealth fund where most of the proceeds from these things go into. Right now, it's going into the pockets of people. But again, after I watched this, we are a country of cartels. I've said this before, and I always will say it. We're a country of cartels. This is only a tip of the iceberg. We have cartels in gold. There is quite a bit happening with the oil, even the fuel industry in Zim. There are cartels there. The chrome, there are cartels. Lithium, there are cartels. And I could go on and on. And what all this does is that all this money that is supposed to assist the country to build its infrastructure, to assist the common man and woman on the street to become a better citizen who can be developed and contribute to the country and the continent, all this money is simply going into the pockets of a few individuals. As to what can be done, it's really a tough one. But I think what the documentary did today, it also brought into the fore to show what the opposition parties, the machinery that the opposition parties are fighting against. These people who have their claws in the government, these people who have taken over institutions, these people who have participated in capturing the state in Zimbabwe are not going to let go easily. And they have been financing those who are busy, who are in power now, and they have been financing quite a bit of their campaigns. So everything that is happening, it ties down to people wanting to maintain the status quo where they can steal the resources of the country. It's really a sad situation, but it's time that every Zimbabwean stands up. We cannot outsource our agency to opposition political parties. Yes, opposition political parties have a role to play, but us as individuals, we must stand up in our own spaces and see what we can do. We cannot outsource our agency to political parties. So each and every Zimbabwean and each and every African who cares about Zimbabwe needs to stand up and say enough is enough. Thank you, Hope.
Thank you very much, my brother. I just want to don't go yet. I just want to challenge you on this. There is no revolution in the world that has happened without leadership. This idea that citizens can stand up in their own space does not work, and we should disabuse ourselves of that idea. It's either we have leaders or we don't have leaders. There is no way some grandmother in Glenora, you expect her to stand up and tell her that you should stand up, don't rely on political parties. Such a thing does not exist. It's an act of cowardice for us to say we should expect people to do something about their circumstances. What do we expect people in Dotito to do about their circumstances? If we, as young people, cannot stand up, form something, and say we are going to lead our people. Everything requires leadership. Let's not fall for this romantic idea that it's a citizens thing. Citizens must do something. Citizens can do something by contributing towards a goal, and then leaders lead us. If there is a person that needs amputation like that young lady from Mashingo, yes, citizens will intervene They will provide the funding. They'll provide $1. They'll provide $5. And eventually it will get to 500. But the idea that this country is going to be freed by citizens who are sitting in Glenora and Mavuku who have no leadership, or leadership is not telling them that this is what we're going to do. Oh, guys, let's disabuse ourselves of that. We are up against a military regime that came into power through a coup. And you think a grandmother in Chabalala must stand up and do something about that regime without leadership? It doesn't work like that. We are educated people. We are an educated nation. That's what we tell the rest of the continent. There is no country that was freed on this continent by citizens who just said we are going to do it on our own. We can't subcontract it to political parties. You have to be organized. We have political parties, opposition political parties. The main opposition political party in this country is Triple C. It needs to lead us to where we need to go. It's not a crime to say so. The Constitution guarantees that political parties exist in this country. There's a reason why we have political parties. Even in Britain, even in America, where they go and vote and they are not butchered, they have political parties that organize. That's why they are able to fight each other in a democratic way and go to the polls, and the one that is lost gives way to the one that is won. In this country, we can't do that. So we need leadership. I can't in my own home today decide with my neighbors that we're going to do something. What can we do? What can we really do as individuals? Because once we start telling our citizens that they need to do something on their own, it means that we are failing. It means that people are going to be demoralized. We need to tell people that we have a leadership in this country. We have a leadership that should lead us. Today we've got this film that has shown us. We are over 8,000 on this space. We are discussing, we are venting, we are angry. But ultimately, the leaders need to lead and say, we have seen this. We now understand the extent of the root of the rot in this country. This is what we are going to do. If I speak as some ordinary guy in the street there, the Zambian or the Malawian leader, they will not listen to me. They don't know me. But they know our leaders. When our leaders speak on our behalf, that our people are dying, we don't have medicines. But you were talking about sanctions. But now look, this is not about sanctions. That's how it works. We can't expect our people to just go and do things on their own. Our people they don't know what to do. They are suffering. They are struggling. That's why we do GoFunds every day. It's because people are suffering. If people had a plan, they would have made that plan a long time ago. Sister Sophie, please go ahead.
What a heavy night. I don't have words. I don't want to lie. I don't have words. And, as an African, I don't have words. I really don't have words. But I just felt I wanted to join and listen. I don't have words. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. This is going to be a big, big story tomorrow. Where do I start? Where do I start? When I sit tomorrow with my team, where do I start? Who am I going to speak to? When my knees are trembling, when my heart is sinking, when we always know that there's a problem on the continent. The African Union appointed a team that was charged with the responsibility to investigate the illicit financial flows out of Africa. it reported that 8 years ago that 50 billion US dollar per annum. That's what we lose as a continent. I think that number has tripled. And the leaders on the continent didn't act. They are not acting. But above all, I want to blame other regions and other countries, international community, because they are the ones who are facilitating the financial flows. These big multinational financial institutions where these monies are kept. And I agree, an ordinary African can't do anything. We are helpless as a continent. It is a fact that they acquired the multinational companies and financial institutions because nobody cares about a black child who can't go to school because there are no resources on the continent, who can't have food on the table because there are no resources on the table. But we have all. God took his time in terms of giving whatever he wanted to give to the continent. Look at what's happening in the DRC. Look at what's happening in the CAR. Look what's happening in Darfur, in South Sudan. The level of poverty on the continent. You know, I just wish that tonight the leaders were listening. You know, even a worse sinner, you can still repent. There's still time. Those who are fingered in these deeds, I hope tonight they will find a way to say, we erred, we apologize, we are going to do things differently. It is sad. It is very sad. I mean, if I am in South Africa, the South African population is restless because of the pressure from neighboring countries. And Africans now are turning against Africans. The leaders are protected, they have security, their children are living in comfortable houses, some are overseas, and some are busy facilitating dirty deals. Africans are fighting amongst themselves, justifiably so, because they can't survive. They can't survive. They can't survive. The inflation, you know, COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine has worsened the situation. And leaders, but whom? I can say, I want to speak in my own language. Let's follow Lalunal guy. Where is your conscience? The illicit financial flow report is gathering dust at the AU. It's gathering dust at the AU. The WISE panel did its work. Mbeki Mojangu Gumbi and many other leaders who were part of that committee did the job. The report is gathering dust. If we as a continent acted 8 years ago, because we knew this was happening, even in terms of pricing, price fixing. It's like, it's just papers when you know very well it's platinum that you are exporting. but the consignment is written paper. I don't know. I'm hoping that I will wake up tomorrow. Not even tomorrow, today. Because I just have to take a nap tonight and have strength to soldier on as a journalist, tell an African story, and still motivated, believing in the continent. Those greetings every morning, I don't see myself writing anything on Twitter tomorrow. The whole day. I'm sorry. Thank you, Hopewell.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Sophie Mokona is the head of foreign news at South African Broadcasting Corporation. You have heard how she feels, and it's painful, and that's how we feel. It's very painful. How can an African person do this to another African person and steal the money and take it to Dubai and keep it there? And then masquerade and moving around the whole world saying that sanctions are killing my country. When you are stealing money and taking it to Dubai and banking it in Dubai, and your people are dying every day in hospitals because they do not have access to medication. You arrest and jail journalists for exposing corruption. I mean, who does that to his own people? It's painful. You know, I'm trying to bring Alexander James, who is the director and producer of these 4 films. But I think there is a problem because he's saying he sent a request, but I can't see the request. And I've got other people like Brother Freeman Chari who are saying they've sent requests, but I can't see the request. I don't know what's going on. So what I'm gonna do, in order to try and see how I can fix this problem, is Jessica, I've sent a co-hosting message to you. Accept it. Can you look for Alexander James for me, and see if you can see Freeman Charlie, because he said he has requested the mic, but I can't see them from my end. So if you can look for Alexander James. He says he has sent a request. He is the producer of this of these documentaries and the director as well. And if you can see Freeman Chari, see if you can see Freeman Chari so that we figure out what's going on. In the meantime, I will ask Joseph Kalimba to go ahead, please.
I'm sorry, Hopo, before Joseph comes in, if both of them can exit the space, close out the application completely, and then come back and then log onto the onto Twitter again, because sometimes it can be network because there's a lot of people, so the facilitation can actually just mingle and be blank. So if both of them, if they can hear me, please exit and then close the Twitter application, then try and come back in and then try and request again. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Jessica. And Joseph, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Hopewell. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear, my brother.
Okay, no, thank you very much. This documentary has highlighted everything that has always been said over the past years. We are following it. I was watching it from Zambia, and it's quite disturbing. But this is the politics that happens across the entire African continent. There's been so much hidden things around our politics. In 2019, Aljazeera released what they called the Fish Road documentary, which highlighted what was happening in Namibia and the Namibian fishing industry. But what we shouldn't set our sights a little bit too far by anticipating that there will be immediate arrests in this documentary that has been released in Zimbabwe. I'm on my way to Binduk from Lusaka right now, and I was with some Zimbabweans a few minutes ago. I'm asking them, guys, have you registered to vote? They are telling me we don't care about politics, and it hurts me. As a Zambian, we've been at the front line to ensure that when we saw our country being driven into a ditch, we went out to vote Edgar Lungu. But the differences that we had were political. We made it very clear to say we wanted our country to be taken back from those whom we believed were looting. And so when I meet Zimbabweans here, when I hear them speak Shona in my country, and I'm trying to interact and find out if they have registered to vote or not, and they say they are not interested in politics, it hurts me. I feel very much concerned because I know the struggle. When people are smuggling gold, people that are pretending to be preachers are talking about individuals being presidents for life. Nobody holds a monopoly to power. Nobody holds a monopoly to wisdom. The political landscape across the entire African continent should be that any person that inspires the generation of their people, any person that inspires the electorates must be given a chance to lead. But it doesn't happen across the African continent because the electoral reforms are not put in place. The electoral commissions are compromised. Those that count the votes are more important than those who go to vote. And we live on a continent where people do things as they please. This documentary has highlighted. People come on social media to attack me. They say these things. They get given $10 US per month to buy that, and then they come and attack and say all sorts of things. Even ZANU-PF officials, they come to attack me. But the reasons why they are doing that is because they want to protect their bread. They want to protect their bread while people are struggling. While individuals in Chitungwiza, for instance, in Harare, in Blawa, are struggling. We have the same instances in Zambia, and we've always believed that our country, it's got an opportunity to accommodate the dreams of every single Zambian that lives in this nation. And I believe that also applies to Zimbabwe. But those opportunities are taken away by those who are in power. People that do not care about the masses. The masses that go to the hospitals and are being told that there's no X-ray machines. And then these cowards come to social media to attack us. They attack my grandmom when we speak about these things. No, these things are personal to some of us. They're very personal because I've seen my country, Zambia, make bad decisions and good ones too. We've had presidents that I believed were driving our country into a ditch. And so when I see a documentary like this one, and when I speak to Zimbabweans that I meet here now in Zambia at this moment, and they say they don't care about politics, it hurts me. Because young people must go and register to vote. Young people must play a role in the political landscape of their nation. We must articulate these issues to them. To say, look, if you don't register to vote, these things will happen over and over again. I shouldn't be a Zambian to tell Zimbabweans to go, to ask them if they've registered to vote. When I meet them here in Zambia, that must be a civic responsibility that they must do. Politically, they must be conscious about these issues. And so it's painful. It's painful when these things happen. But like I said, we saw what happened in Namibia when Aljazeera released the Fish Road documentary. 2 ministers now are, they're spending nights in and out of jail. But we can't anticipate that what happened there is immediately going to happen in Zimbabwe. We don't know the political landscape. And so we'll be setting our sights a little bit too far by anticipating that Albert Angel or any other person that is going to appear in these documentaries will be arrested. But the job, the civic responsibility of the citizens is to go and register to vote, like we've done it here before. I'm towards the end of my 20s. I'm clocking 30. But we should never be a people that have to wait until you reach a certain age to be able to understand fully the political landscape of your nations. Young people that we're meeting here, I'm telling them, guys, go and register to vote. There's another lady, a Zimbabwean lady that I met here. She's speaking Shona. I'm speaking to them from Zambia to say, guys, have you registered to vote? No, we haven't. No, we don't know. We don't know if we're going. People are completely out of context. They don't want to get involved in politics in as much as it affects their lives. The reasons why they are here in Zambia to, they've got bags and then they're going to say, I presume, in Zimbabwe. The reasons why those things are happening is because they just want to live a better life. But we're a country that accommodates them all, and we're not going to regard these people as foreigners because they are our fellow Africans. But what we want is for them to play a role in ensuring that whether they're in Kariba, whether they're in Chirundu, or whether they're in Harare, they must live better lives. And these things also, they happen not just in Zimbabwe, but even in the DRC, in the Central African Republic, as Sophie was saying. It's an African problem that we must be able to discuss collectively. And young people, old people, middle-aged people, you must play a role in ensuring that you get involved in the political landscapes of your nation. Go and register to vote if that should be done. Ensure that you call your family members, let them understand if you're a breadwinner to say you are not going to be able to provide for everyone if they don't want to play a role in ensuring that the political environment is conducive for them to go and register to vote. And once the registration has been done, no one should be a breadwinner in a family of 40. There should be more than one breadwinner so that a family grows. And when a family grows, the whole nation will succeed. We did that in Zambia. We've elected a man that is right in his conscience at the State House and is helping our country move forward. We have challenges at the moment, but we are forever inspired by the fact that we've got a conscious man at the State House, at the Zambian State House, who is leading our country from A to B, where B is a better place. And we want that to happen across the entire African continent. Thank you. That is my submission.
Thank you very much, my brother Joseph. You know, the call to register to vote that you've just made there, I can never overemphasize it. It's so important. It's so easy for ZANU-PF or any other political party to rig an election if people don't go and register to vote and don't turn out in huge numbers, is what happened in Zambia. It's so important for us to register to vote, especially for young people. You see, I'm 51 years old. I've lived more than half my life, but I put so much energy because I want young people to have the same access I had to a good quality life. I was able to get mortgages. I was able to drive nice cars, and I still drive nice cars. I've got resources. If I choose today that I want to go to America, I don't have to worry about how am I going to get there. I simply go online, buy my ticket. This is what we're fighting for. We want the young men and women in the townships to have the same kind of life. You can have it. I came from the townships. I grew up in Glenora. I came from Murewa as well, Kumusha. But look at where I am today. It's because those resources and were availed to us. We had access that you don't have today. And what we're fighting for is for you to have access today. When I go to prison, I have a choice not to go to prison by keeping quiet and staying in my home. Waking up in the morning, jumping into my swimming pool and playing with my dogs, or going to England to see my kids. But the reason why we keep fighting is because we want you all to have access to the very things that we know are available for you, but are being plundered by a very few, a political and criminal cabal that you saw today. And I'm told more is to come. I'm going to try. Hopefully that will be able to bring Alexander James, the director and producer of this documentary series. If we are not able, he keeps telling me that he can hear us. When Jessica was talking, he told me that he can hear Jessica. He did what Jessica asked him to do, but we still can't see him. He's not alone. Farai Mugu, my other panelist, I can't see him. He says he's in the space, but I can't see him. So if we by the end of the space, if we're not able to bring them on, don't worry, we'll have another space tomorrow. It's Friday. We'll do it much earlier, say around 7, and we can get them. But I hope that we will be able to get these guys on. Jessica, please go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Hopewell, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Right. Okay, great. So my contribution is actually going to be rather short. But for me, while we are trying to focus on the immediate, that is the gold issue that happened, for me, the biggest red flag was the recommissioning of Anjin. So for everybody that is on the space, when we get off, please just type Anjin, ANJIN, and I'm sure Hopewell, you know about Anjin. This is a company that was implicated in the $15 billion diamond scandal, right? So it was closed off in 2015 or 2016. So RGM closed it. He shut it down. And then ED came through when he became president. And that was one of the first things that he recommissioned. And if you actually go through the articles from different papers, they actually were saying that it was unclear how and why Angin was brought back, especially when it was implicated in the 15 billion, not $15, 15,000, 1,500 or 15 million, but it was brought back, and there was a ceremony that was held, and ED himself recommissioned that Angin. So the diamonds came and they left. So I feel like Hopewell is right. The resources, they are there, but they don't benefit anyone. Similarly to how Mutare and Manicaland did not benefit anything from the diamonds, that's exactly the case with ZANU-PF. That's the case with gold and ZANU-PF. Nobody is benefiting anything. So the gold has come. Similarly, I can give another very good example, like chrome. Kunana lala pansi. The mafia comes, it takes, it enjoys, and then it comes back and it sells propaganda, So people, especially from the ruling party, they come back and they say, for those that don't understand Shona, it means a country is built by its people, by its natives. But that's where probably I then where I've always had loggerheads with the people that support the ruling party. Do ordinary citizens print money? No. Can they dictate interest rates? No. Can they go directly to Fidelity when they've gotten like maybe 15 grams of gold to just say, okay, can I get this? No. Do they have access to the claims, to the gold claims? No. Can ordinary people make policies for themselves? No. So when people are coming here and saying it's the natives, it's the locals that build the country, you can't tell me that when I'm a policeman or when I'm a teacher that's getting paid about $170, right? Because for me to be able to access credit for Venevayo, for me, the Vene to build, it means I cannot, because I don't even have surety or collateral, because for starters, it's been years since we're able to actually build as a nation. So I think for me, what just gets me upset is that ZANU-PF and everybody else who's linked to them, they come to steal. And most of them then come on social media, they come in papers, they get access to interviews, and then they start to say, shut up and make the money. So is this the money they're talking about when they're saying, shut up and make the money? So I'm actually quite baffled the most by young people, especially that are going to run within the ruling party. And not that I have anything against them, but for me, I have no doubt in my mind that these people are not doing it to legit make any change, because what I've heard from two people that are going to run that are my age, they're saying that they want to make change from within. But then what change are you going to make from within when for the past 43 years, there hasn't been any change from within? We used to have the First Republic, and then the Second Republic came, and then it said, we are taking criminals off the president. And it actually became the criminals that they were trying to get rid of. They're the ones that then came and ascended into power. So for me, just in closing, the gold issue is a big deal. But we've also heard, and this anybody from the Midlands province knows, the Owen Mudas, the Mnangagwas, they control the gold belt. The politicians, especially in the ruling party, they control the entire Midlands. Shurugwi, I can give you all the names of the places in Midlands that I know. Shisharane, Kunana Supa, there's so many places. And for me, when politicians are coming to control those things, as a numbers person, I'll just come and say, just in closing, that Hubert Angel is one person. Guys, he is one person. And we're roughly a population of about 16.75 million, right? Which is probably like 17 million. And large gold mining happens in at least all the 5 regions in the country. So I am very, very confused that if one person can facilitate that much amount of gold smuggling. And we know about the Scott Sakopwanyas, we know about what Hopewell has tweeted, and the people that have been implicated here and there in gold issues, right? And we're talking about less than 10. And then how many runners are in Bindura, how many runners in Chegutu, how many runners in Shavani, how many runners in Kwekwe, in so many places. And these are gold runners. And then how many are diamond, how many do platinum, how many do chrome. So at a larger scale, I could personally, and I can back this up if I have to, I personally do not think that we lose just approximately 170 million, like what Hopewell is saying, and that I know he's saying from a point of fact, but I personally think that it's much more than that. It's way more, because here we're just talking about the UAE. Now think of the gold that goes to Russia, to China, to South Africa, to Namibia, to Congo, to all these places where people can actually facilitate it without having papers, jets flying in and out. So 170 million that was said per month could potentially be what people assume to think in probably one country or in probably 2 or 3 countries. But I am positive that there's obviously Mozambique, there's Malawi, there's Congo, where we hear that, there are so many strips of planes that come in and out. So it could be much, much at a grand scale. And this is just gold. Now imagine, like what Hopewell is saying, with the diamonds, with every other mineral that we have in Zimbabwe. So for me, this is heartbreaking. I think I almost broke down into tears when I went through the documentary. I think it's just an unfair thing. And the whole sanctions nonsense, the biggest sanction that we have, for the record, and this you can put it on record, the biggest sanction we have is ZANU-PF. The biggest sanction that we have is the government of Zimbabwe. And for me, that is so heartbreaking that it's actually the Venevayo crew that are stealing. And then they come to us, then they say nurses for ED, journalists for ED, teachers for ED. What for ED when you're stealing from us? So I think that's my contribution. Thank you so much, Hope, for this wonderful space.
No, thank you very much, Jessica, for that. Susan, please go ahead.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Yeah, I've been watching this documentary. It's been a very hard day for me because, I think there was some, stuff my brother Hopewell, we did kind of like try to tell us last year. And right now, us having this documentary is a huge confirmation of everything. It's like I was so dizzy just to watch the documentary alone today. I felt so dizzy. I was so angry. Just like I felt so angry at myself, like, what on earth are we doing as Zimbabweans, really? Under ZANU-PF for 40-something years, the looting continues. And this kind of looting, which is happening at the moment, I think it's the worst looting ever I've seen in my whole entire life. This kind of looting is pure evil. It's not like the kind of looting where you think they are looting to leave things behind, but they are looting to empty the country that by the time another government took over, I don't think there will be anything left with this kind of looting they are doing. And if I look back, last year ago, we saw children dying, no incubators. And we saw mothers being forced to give birth in their own homes because there were problems in maternity ward. Some bled to death. And after watching this documentary, it makes me sick, to be honest, sick. And as a nation, I think we have to draw a line and saying enough is enough. If we have to register to vote as Zimbabweans, wherever we are around the world, I think we have to push ourselves, do something to register to vote in numbers, because this can't go on. And if you look at that, sometimes we see people, we do donations for people to get treatment. We've seen lots of children with tumor cancers that we have to do it, facilitate on our own. Yet if you watch this documentary, some people are bragging of netting 7 to 8 million per month, and then for a year, they are netting 2 billion. That 2 billion can do so much for Zimbabweans. And if you watch that kind of thing, it just makes you angry. I feel so angry right now that if I am to speak to those Tendais in headquarters myself, face to face, I think I don't know what will happen. I feel so angry that you just don't know what to think of. Like just watching that, it makes you wonder how can someone be so evil to that extent that they are draining the country, and you've got some fucking foreigners from Kenya coming to my country, draining everything in the name of God, and my people cannot even eat anything. Their children sleeping over there with the hunger, and yet someone from some fucking foreign country coming into Zimbabwe, draining things in Zimbabwe. And that pathetic pastor, he comes in Zimbabwe, draining everything, bringing his own secretary, who's not even a fucking Zimbabwean. And this is happening in Zimbabwe, where I think this whole thing is sham. If as a Zimbabwean, this thing doesn't get you angry right now, I don't know what else can make you angry. Because right now, I feel so angry with myself. I feel so frustrated just watching this because I know people are dying. I've got my sister one day. She went to the hospital. The doctors could not give her anything. What they give her was not supposed to be the kind of medication they gave it her because there was nothing. They were so desperate. They give her some sort of medication. By the time we moved it to another hospital because we noticed that these people were struggling, it was too late. My sister died. When we took it to another hospital, that tablet which was given made her resistant. So by watching this kind of thing, that my sister could have survived right now if that fucking Parengwa had medication, it makes so angry. It's very angry to be honest. I cannot breathe just watching all that thing happening in Zimbabwe. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Susan. Your anger is understandable. Because these are things that should not be happening in our country, but they are happening. And unfortunately, we won't wake up tomorrow to a different reality. We know these people. We know how they roll. The biggest joke that ZANU has pulled on Zimbabweans is appointing a guy with a British passport to become ambassador at large for Zimbabweans. And that guy has got a British secretary who he moves around with, conning people and stealing money from Zimbabweans and taking it abroad. And then these guys come with their nonsense of saying, these are British guys that are looting money from Zimbabwe, taking it to Dubai, and then they come and tell us that it's an absolute joke. They've really, ZANU-PF has studied us, and it has realized that these people are clowns. We can do whatever we want with them, because I've often questioned people that the kind of banter that you have with ZANU-PF guys on social media, it's expected in a country where ZANU-PF is a normal party and its officials are normal people who understand that our citizens require medication, and you can engage and joke because you come from different political perspectives, but you are all citizens. But not in a country where people will go and buy cruisers and their citizens have nothing to eat. These people are having their homes, I confirmed it, they're having their homes repaired by the taxpayer. But they are so cruel that they don't want to buy an X-ray machine for the same taxpayer. They don't want to buy paracetamol for the same taxpayer. And it's not even their money, it's our money, it's the taxpayers' money. But they would rather taxpayers die, right? And they use that taxpayer money to repair their homes. And people continue to die. It's unimaginable, but it's happening in our country. And it's happening every day. And I'm glad that this time around, the expose by Aljazeera, it's not a journalist saying, so-and-so told me this. You actually hear them in their own words. It's unfortunate that we're failing to bring Alexander James, who's the director and producer of these films. If we're not able to bring him tonight, we'll do another space tomorrow so that he can tell you, what you should expect. And he tells me that what we saw today, it's nothing. That's what he tells me. It's absolutely nothing compared to what we're going to see in the other three films. So if what has made so many people so angry is called nothing, I wonder what's in the other films. Anyway, can fake like white Jesus go ahead, please?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chaguzo Nashe. I'm a university student. I'm concerned with the part in the documentary where Hubert Angel mentioned that he signs treaties with foreign nations on behalf of the government and is binding without them even knowing. My question is, how much of our future is mortgaged without us knowing? How much do we own foreigners, and how much illicit deals are they doing through these posts they are given by the government? And my other concern, which was mentioned in the documentary, is when my other concern, which was mentioned in the documentary, is when Hubert Angel said that the president is going to be the president until he dies. It shows how much confidence they have in the system of controlling the election narrative, which is going to happen this year. So it requires a tougher opposition, and they have so much ammunition that everyone is confident. Thank you for listening.
No, thank you very much. And I feel sorry for you because as a young person, if you are at university in Zimbabwe, you are going through one of the most horrendous times, and you don't have the books that you require. You don't get the food, the decent food that is expected of an institution like, for instance, the University of Zimbabwe. You don't have the quality internet services that will assist you to compete with other students in other countries. You are starting from a base where everything is not working for you. Most of your fellow students are homeless. They are having to squat at university with other students. It's terrible. So these things affect everyone in so many different ways. And if we don't understand that this is not just about one person, this is about a whole country that has been subjected to not only tyrannical rule, but to one of the most worst corrupt cabals ever to live in Africa. I've lived and worked in Nigeria, which used to be famed as one of the most corrupt countries in Africa. I've never seen anything like what's happening in Zimbabwe and Nigeria. I've never seen a governor in Nigeria failing to provide medication in hospitals. Even under Mobutu Sese Seko, one of the most worst kleptocratic rulers, it never got as worse as it is in Zimbabwe. And to imagine that this is a country which used to boast of the highest literacy rate, and most of its citizens go around the world being CEOs of these big companies. Right now, MTN, it's a Zimbabwean. Vodacom, it's a Zimbabwean. If you vice president of Google is a Zimbabwean. But look at the country. It's trash. We've been trashed. A country where Parenyatwa Hospital has not been functioning for over 9 months. And all it needs is a hospital to function properly without any shortages is $12 million US. Money that they make in 3 days. It's unbelievable. Please go ahead.
Hopewell, thank you so much for the work. I think quite often we just don't credit you with the work that you've done in this struggle. And it's heart-rending just listening and watching. And when you say there's worse to come, I think all we can do is perhaps wait and watch, but the awakening has been done. And we were quite curious with regards to why there was a delay. But there it is, we have it. It doesn't look censored from that perspective. Maybe at the tail end, where we pick up people, I guess, with rights to respond. And so we saw that at the end of that expose. But I just want to focus, on the word in times like these when you don't know what to do. I think Sophie expressed the fact that you get exhausted, if not angry, about what's going on in Africa. And the word says in Luke 7, verse 30 and 31, how can I account for the people of this generation? They are like spoiled children complaining to their parents. We wanted to skip rope, and you were always too tired. We wanted to talk, but you were always too busy. And if the truth be told, we've been too busy chasing our businesses or chasing whatever it is we're chasing in the diaspora or wherever else we are. And we've just been too busy to talk about things. And I think such a documentary then leads us to paint scenarios. I think what's happened has happened. And I think what becomes important is those who are thought leaders, those who are people like yourselves who stuck their necks out and made decisions to actually, take a stand, for what is right or what we call righteousness. I think it's time to reflect. It doesn't require, I see there, 7,000 of us still online. And it's to exchange views. And I know a lot of Zimbabweans just are tired of talk shops and we want action. But I think it's important that we don't just leap into action. We've got to really be strategic. We've got to be prayerful. And why do I say that? Because it's a military regime. It's a machinery. It's panofiwa, and people have got to be prepared to die. This is another revolution. And it's a revolution that is going to take place within the party. I think there are dynamics within the ruling party itself, because I cannot imagine that there are people who are genuine patriots who sacrifice their lives, their children, or their parents died in the struggle for this nonsense that we are seeing. So I think within the party itself, we should expect something, to happen. And then further still, we expect those who are custodians of this whole debacle to actually stand and protect it and, want to paper over it. I mean, the cracks are so huge. I'm not sure how you actually put paper over this. It also speaks, I think, about the government itself and the state machinery, that indeed, if this is ignorance of the parties that you are dealing with, when you make appointments such as ambassadors at large or whatever those titles might be, what vetting process is taking place to allow such shenanigans? And then, we expect to also see that there are consequences. And I mean, even people within the army, kanaiva notumwa kuti varove, mapurisa, masoja. I think it's time to rethink. And so the state institutions themselves, our court systems, the ZEC, allowing an election then to carry on with this sort of shenanigans going on, I think is diabolical. And, we ask, what do we do? And I think as citizens, Hopewell, the issue is there, my brother. Yakuti, nature abhors a vacuum. And if there is no leadership in the opposition, then you stand up and lead. If you can see so clearly, then you have no choice. You can't sit and be a journalist. And I challenge you, because at the end of the day, yes, there are roles. And yeah, I mean, I think it's permissible. If I choose to be a businessman, maybe I'm a businessman, for the rest of my life. But, what good is it to run a business in an economy that is decaying because of the morass of what's going on? What good is it, my brother, that you are a journalist or a pastor? I don't care what you are. When you watch, because our children's children will ask, Baba Manga Murukupi, when this nonsense was going on. So in as much as people sacrifice their lives for the struggle, for, against colonialism, there is a clarion call now for a new generation within the political parties themselves to be asking, where are their leaders and how strategic are their leaders in taking us to the next level? Because at this rate, we are deteriorating very fast. And I think we've got to remove ourselves from the emotions that go with these things, because it's not unique to Zimbabwe. It's happening all over the world. In the US, corruption. In the UK, a former prime minister is under trial. So let us not be naive and think that, it's not happening elsewhere. It's happening elsewhere, and we, as a people, have a responsibility to urge people to vote. And I've joined your campaign. Even as a businessman, I said, look, I've got to set aside my business, participate in the social spaces, take over the presidency of the Zimbabwe Economic Society, and use these as tools of educating the masses with regards to what's going on with the economy, and then encourage people to vote. But remember, as Africans, a vote within itself is not sufficient. It's not a necessary and sufficient condition. We've now got to be conscious that our institutions must function. And within our communities, our hospitals must function. And if the government ones don't function, we build parallel structures. We did rebuild St. Anne's Hospital. We put it up as the first COVID center because we concluded as business that government either hasn't got the capacity or don't want to do it or can't do it. And at the end of the day with COVID, we considered that we were sitting ducks and 18 of us did something. So we can do something as citizens. And I think the time has come for us to run parallel structures whilst supporting those who choose to be politicians. And we elect the right politicians. We elect the right councillor. We elect the right MP. We elect the right president. And we name and shame those who are, useless to us and our communities. But we can't just sit. Sitting is not an option. It's no longer an option. And we must consciously be asking ourselves, as these documentaries are shown, that what role am I going to take in Zimbabwe? Been there, done that, been out there. But the role is clearly one where I commit and I say I'm an active citizen. And if it so means that we set aside our businesses to run, because in banking, guess what? When money is being printed so fast, when hyperinflation is going up so quickly, you can hardly run a business anyway. It's pointless. It's futile if you're going to run a business locally. At best, you maybe run businesses outside the country. But then at the end of the day, so what do? You come back. And so I think where each and every one of us begin to spread the message, begin to educate each other, begin to talk to people within ZANU-PF, within CCC, that we want a leadership that we, can live with. And the Kanavasinga Gone kana vasingade kuchinja, if they're as heartless and as ruthless as they are, then kuhondo kotofiwa zvakare. Unfortunately, that's what it means. And people have got to be prepared to die for their country once again, because that's what it means. And so, yes, it saddens us, but we must never lose hope. We're not yet that basket case. We're not goners as yet. And it's time we actually stood up and salvaged our nation. We have a beautiful country, and I have all the confidence that within my lifetime, we will see a better Zimbabwe. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for creating these spaces. We exchange ideas, and then we decide singularly how committed we are to the cause. And where we can get ourselves together, we put ourselves together and we do something. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much for those words of wisdom. I can't add anything to what you've said. It's self-evident that there are a lot of people in this country that are able to steer the country towards the right direction. But as you said, you know, when you are dealing with people with guns, they make it impossible for those that are willing to work for the country to actually do it. So I hope we'll get to reflect. It's 3 minutes to 1 a.m. So I think we'll close this space at 1:30. Then we'll try and see if we can have another one over the weekend with the Aljazeera team. They're actually here, but I can't see their request, and my co-host can't see. This space, I think, is big. Somebody has just sent me a message to say that Twitter was having upgrades, and when people have Android phones, I'm not a very good person with technical stuff. But that as it may be, Jabulo, please go ahead.
Good evening or good morning, since it's the early hours of the morning. You know, one of the things I like what you have just raised in terms of we need a purposeful leadership that will seize the moment, because I feel that there is a need for Zimbabweans to rise up. I'm here, I'm in SA, you know. We've seen load shedding affecting businesses and stuff like that, and we saw EFF taking it upon themselves to take it to the streets, and it has put the ANC government in so much pressure that they need to respond to the pressure that they are being given by the opposition. And I feel there is that gap that we need in Zimbabwe for people to rise up. I will give you an example without us even having to go through looking at without me commenting much on the documentary. We got to a Bulawayo City Council. You look at it, you know, in some time back, Bulawayo City Council offices were shut down. ZESA cut off power from the Bulawayo City Council. I think it's almost now more than 7 or 8 years back. And when they did that, the Bulawayo City Council went and bought a big generator that could just power them. So every day they buy diesel to run that generator to power their multi-story building. It's running, it's doing the lifts, it's doing everything. It's running almost 24 hours of the day. And they continuously make sure it's maintained. But you've seen when you look at Bulawayo, it runs for 2-3 days, 4 days without water. And they will give you an excuse to say, you know what, ZESA, because of load shedding, we cannot pump enough water to have the citizens to give people water at the end of the day. But they were able to buy themselves a huge generator that's running. And you have people that live in that city on a daily basis. We have cholera scares running in Zimbabwe that we are failing to have a government or a council that is able to rise up and buy a generator to substitute in the time of load shedding. And we have citizens hospitals running for days without water. We have hospitals running for hours without electricity. And we as the citizens, we have become so complacent and so content and so acceptive with such levels of treatment. You look at this documentary, how much is being siphoned out of Zimbabwe on a daily basis. We have a guy who flies, he tells you 2 months, I've been to Dubai 13 times. In that documentary, he has flown to Dubai 13 times. How much is being smuggled out within those 13 times when he's taking those trips? So I think
I told you 3 minutes. If you have 1 more minute.
Okay, okay, let me try. So I feel we need, as the Zimbabweans, we need to rise up, and we need to take it upon ourselves to start asking the necessary questions and being angry enough to stand up and start knocking at the doors and demand what is rightfully ours. We cannot have a system running for 5 years doing this to us. Imagine how much we have lost in 5 years, and the level of poverty in Zimbabwe being displayed, people living for days without water, yet we have a government which is smuggling millions a week, hundreds of millions a week. So there is a need for us to rise up, and I feel we need leaders that are going to lead us, that are going to speak to the Zimbabwean children to rise up and demand what is rightfully ours. Thank you so much, Koma Hope, and my brother Ziso.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much for remarks. And I think it's important. The points that you raised are very important. The quality of leadership matters. I think it's also important for Zimbabweans to start understanding that the leaders that we elect, we get what we deserve. If we elect useless people, we get a useless service. If we elect incompetent people, we get a service that is in line with the incompetence that we have elected. So, as I was growing up, my father always used to say to me that, oh, I worry about my people. They elect the most comical person because he or she makes them laugh. They elect someone because he buys them beer. They elect someone because they know how to sweet talk. And someone who's extremely competent will not be elected. It was Professor Lumumba who said that he had 200 town hall meetings in a constituency when he was running for parliament in Kenya. And some guy just came with money. He had never attended to the constituency. He just came with money a day before the elections. And he won. That is the quality of the voter that we have in Africa. And that is the quality of voter that we have in Zimbabwe as well. We have to be honest with each other. People like Fadzai failed to make it to parliament with all that she was offering. And people in Mount Pleasant voted for a guy who lives in Malawi. He still lives in Malawi to this day. And they voted for that guy because we vote for political parties, not the quality of candidates that is before us. So if a businessman like Nigel Chanakira comes and he's got a lot to offer in parliament, if he's not wearing the jacket from our political party, we don't vote for him. We would rather vote for someone else who's coming from the party that we prefer. So we get what we deserve, and we must learn to live with that. If we elect useless people, we are going to get useless things. If we elect incompetent people, we are going to get a service that is in line with that incompetence that we've created. It might not happen in my lifetime that people start voting on the basis of the quality of the person that is before them. If it doesn't happen, well, that's okay still. If it happens, then that would be great. But you must understand that the people that you are going to elect in 2023 are not suddenly going to become brilliant because you've elected them to parliament or you've elected them to council. As again, Professor Lumumba said, there's no magic in the ballot box. If you elect a fool, they become an elected fool. If you elect an idiot, they become an elected idiot. It's as simple as that. And I hope our people understand that. What seat, please go ahead. What seat, can you hear me?
No, hi, Hopewell. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thank you so much. I just want to just ask a question. I have been checking through different parties' social media handles, and I'm seeing either no comment or dismissive comments. I actually was checking the pages that are very popular with the young people in Zimbabwe, pages like Nash TV and Zim Celebs, and nothing, not even a comment. It just seems like a dismissive atmosphere. I would like to ask you, because this is now it's so in our faces, do we expect a public statement by the government? What should we be expecting? Whether it's bad or good, should we expect anything, or should we expect things to be dismissive because we know right now there are primary elections happening on the weekend and so forth? What should Zimbabweans be expecting to avoid disappointment further? Thank you very much, Hopewell.
And thank you very much. Zimbabweans should not expect anything from ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF is not going to change today because there was a documentary film. ZANU-PF will always remain ZANU-PF. So don't expect much from ZANU-PF. You will see a few letters flying around and say, we're investigating this. Someone might be arrested for a week or two, the catch and release, like what they did with Henrietta Shwaya. But don't expect much from ZANU-PF. From the opposition, what do you expect? You should expect a robust response. By now, they should have said something. They haven't yet. So I don't know. We expect Nelson Chamisa to say something. He's running for president in 4 months' time. We expect him to give a robust response. Is he going to give one? Time will tell. We wait and see whether he's going to give a robust response. I would expect opposition members of parliament, councillors to go into their communities and educate people. They now have an accessory, a tool that they can use to explain to people. A documentary film is a very good tool to use when you are explaining to people. This is not like a 2-minute thing. It's a proper story, and which was told very well. And it's important for them to use it. Are they going to use it? We wait and see. What should citizens do? Well, as I've always said, the option that is available is the option that the opposition gives you. If the opposition wants to be robust, citizens, they can follow and be robust. If the opposition wants to sit, the citizens can do nothing. They will just sit. As I've said before, citizens require leadership. You can't expect citizens to just act on their own. It has never happened. Even the whole idea that in Tunisia there was a spontaneous thing, it wasn't. People haven't studied these things. Those of us that have studied know that it was not spontaneous. We know that there is no revolution that happens on its own. You have to have leaders who are courageous, who are bold, who are able to lead their people. What should we expect from the police? Nothing at all. The police takes directions from ZANU-PF. When I'm arrested, one time when I was arrested, the police officers actually told me that we know you have not committed a crime, but we have been told to come and arrest you. And it was proven twice by the courts. They threw out the thing after about 1.5 years of harassment. Right now, I'm going through a trial. I'm going back to court on the 29th. A trial to do with Henrietta Shwaya. I exposed that they had done a corrupt deal to give a bail unopposed. And I was arrested, spent 25 days in prison. And since then, on the 3rd of November up to now, I've been on remand. They are holding title deeds to my house. That's how vicious the mafia is. My arrest and my trial and everything that's going on is because of this mafia. I got in the way of them making money by exposing what was going to happen. And what I said is exactly what happened. And the magistrate even said it himself that this is not proper. How do you catch someone with 6.7 kilograms of gold trying to smuggle it to Dubai, and you say you don't oppose bail? And the magistrate said, you've got to oppose bail, you know. And so I was proven right on all accounts. But because Henrietta Shwaya is a runner for very powerful people, I was arrested, I was thrown into prison. I've been on remand for over 2 years, and up to now, the case has not been dealt with decisively. I went to court. I applied for discharge on the basis that the charge does not make sense. You can't say that I interfered by talking about a case that was pending before the courts. I spoke on the 26th. Henrietta went to court on the 27th. So there was no case pending. But because it's the mafia, I am still being persecuted politically. They've got my title deeds. They've got my money, which they took in 2020 as part of bail reconnaissance. So it's a mafia. That's how a mafia operates. This is a mafia state that is running this country. Journalists get us arrested for exposing corruption. That's exactly what happens under a mafia state. It's so ironic that today people stand and correctly say Robert Mugabe was better. He was compared to this mafia that is in charge. Anyway, Brother Ivan, go ahead.
My brother Hopewell, thanks very much. I appreciate the space, the time, and the efforts to put this together. A couple of responses from my perspective from some of the comments I've heard, and then just a little bit of possibly the way forward. First of all, attempting this whole idea of appealing to ZANU-PF to change from within. I think brother Nigel kind of brought that up. You see, this does not work. We know this. ZANU-PF has been in power for over 40 years now. There has been no change. Many people have gone and tried to do the within, change from within. They go in and they become the exact same thing. And we find ourselves fighting a rejuvenated ZANU-PF with new faces, with new tactics, and they just continue to entrench their brutality. And that's what's happening now, is that you find a lot of people saying, maybe we should go into ZANU-PF and let's try and, change the thing from within. It really is an excuse to find a place where one can sit and also enjoy the looting and the thievery, that is happening. If you follow the trail of runners, I think someone spoke earlier on, if you follow the trail of runners behind some of the individuals that were shown here, in this first part of the documentary, you're going to find hundreds and thousands of young people that are in there that, run around doing these success coaching talks and, these things about how to make money. And they run these sham businesses, which are nothing but just, fronts for this gold smuggling mafia. So that's what ZANU-PF is. I think we have to understand and accept that ZANU-PF is a criminal enterprise from start to finish. That's what it is at the core. In fact, that is the ideology of ZANU-PF. That's why it will never change. Their ideology is that they are in it to enrich themselves and each other. And then they swap leadership when the time comes, when others want more or when others feel threatened by others. They pretend as if they want to change the country, but really they're just changing the faces that are at the feeding trough. So I think let's put that one to rest. There is no change that is going to come initiated by ZANU-PF for Zimbabwe, not in this lifetime, in our generation, or in the next generation of young people, our children and their children, because you can already see ZANU-PF training up their children and putting their children in positions and teaching them how to maintain the status quo. So in terms of ZANU, expecting ZANU to change or to respond with something sensible, I don't understand why we would even wait. Let's hear what ZANU is going to say. It is a foregone conclusion that they will say nothing that will change this situation. Even if they said something that seemed as if something amazing was going to happen, understand that at the core of it is that it is just theater to quieten the masses. It is just a performance for people to calm down and for their anger to simmer so that they can continue to do what they've always been doing. So nothing is coming from that quarters that is going to be of any benefit to anyone who cares about Zimbabwe. So that's one end of it. Now the other end of it, we have only just seen part one of this documentary. There's 3 other parts. But of course, the main documentary that you and I know is the lives that we have lived in Zimbabwe, depending on how old you are. I just turned 46. So for the last 46 years, I've been part of a live documentary that I know has happened in Zimbabwe. I know the times my parents have been sick and they have not gotten medication. I know the times that we have not been able to put food on the table. I know the times that we lost everything that was in our bank accounts in 2008 when we ended up with a $100 trillion note, the largest banknote ever issued in the history of money in terms of the human race. Okay, so we know all of these things that are happening. Now, with this moment where we are in, where they are faces and they are in action and they are doing it and they are blatant as they loot the system, I want to bring us back to the fact that the power is within the people. And what ZANU-PF and any other political entity respects is power, not just noise or anger or memes on social media. Thank God for social media that has given us the place and space, but it's not enough for us just to be angry here. This documentary must translate to some action on the ground if we really are serious about seeing change in Zimbabwe. So what part of the project at hand now requires us to figure out, how do we take this anger, how do we take these revelations that we have and disseminate them into people with a call to action, Otherwise, we're going to come to the end of part 4 of this documentary and it will just dissipate. It will just be business as usual. We will laugh about it and joke about it as well, which is okay. I guess it's our way of dealing with things. But unless we find a way to coalesce, to bring people together and to establish what the call of action is going to be, the call to action is going to be. Unless we do that, then, we are just part of the circus. We are just being entertained, and ZANU-PF will find a way to make sure that the circus carries on. So how do we do this? And I want to speak to, as I close, because I know there's not enough time left, but how do we, yes, we have an opposition that is doing what they can. They are building, they are running with different campaigns and preparing. But what other cogs of this wheel need to be in play as well? How do citizens come together and say, right, this is what we have found out. This is what we now know. Let's get this message to everyone. Things are being stolen, and these are the people involved, and this is how much it is being taken and what it is costing us. Therefore, this is going to be our call to action. Let's move in this direction, and everyone gets onto that. Otherwise, see, without that display of people power, ZANU-PF is unmoved. For 4 years, like you, Hopewell, and other people that may be listening, I was brutalized because we were able to galvanize the ordinary person to look at the powerful and say, I have had enough of you. So this is the time, this is the chance again that has now come again. And we are literally months away from an election, like you said. How do we keep this energy and how do we translate it into a resolve, even if it costs my life? Pakuniwa courage. We now need courage because Zimbabweans have been held in a clasp of fear for many years. And so how do we break that fear? Over 4 years, we were able to break quite a bit of fear, and people came out, people stood, people participated, people spoke out. We need to be able to disciple more people to have the courage to stand up, to speak truth to power. But they do it under leadership, like Hopewell said, and they do it where there is a clear call to action that people can follow and people can respond to. Thanks very much. I want to appreciate the work that you're all doing, and I know that it takes a group effort for us to come up with some of these solutions. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Pastor Ivan. Really appreciated. Zimbabwe Freedom Expression, please go ahead. Zimbabwe Freedom Expression, can you hear me? Okay, Shepard, please go ahead.
Oh, Zimbabwe couldn't hear when Pastor was speaking. I don't know whether he can hear me. Zimbabwe, can you unmute?
There seems to be a problem. Let's go to Shepard.
Okay, thanks, Hope. Yeah, through all of this, our institutions as a country are nowhere to be seen. Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission is nowhere in the picture. It shows that the state capture that we are seeing now at a higher level started way back when the institutions that are supposed to keep people in power in check, when they were being hollowed out. In the long run, in the long term, we need to make sure that we have institutions on the ground that are functional, and we need to hold our leaders accountable. We are not at odds when we are saying that people need to be active and that there needs to be leadership. What I was saying that people should not give out their agency to political parties. What I meant was that people need to be active. When someone comes and becomes a leader and leads, people should stand up and say, I am here, rather than people just disappearing into the crowd. So it's important for people to stand up with the leadership and take action. And hopefully Zimbabwe will rise. Sis Sophie really left me in my feels. You could hear that she was overwhelmed. Most of us are really sad, not just about Zimbabwe, but about a lot of things that are happening on the African continent especially. And it's time that we reach a point where we say we will not keep quiet, and we're going to keep up the pressure, and we need to really make sure that we steer this ship in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So very sorry, I couldn't hear everyone. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Otherwise, I'll go back down if you can.
We can hear you. We can hear you, Zimbabwe.
Can you hear us, Zimbabwe? Expression. Freedom of expression.
Sorry, if you can hear me, can I please get 100? I genuinely can't hear anything that Ziso or Hopewell is saying. I'm trying to speak, but for some reason, I'm not sure if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go 100.
Can you hear me?
Oh dear. We have given you the 100 you've requested, sir. Anyway, it seems there's a technical problem. So we go to...
All right, great. You can hear me. Thank you very much. Okay. This documentary, one of the saddest things that it has brought to light for me, it is the fact that there are so many Zimbabweans that have left Zimbabwe and have gone to work outside of Zimbabwe, and they keep on sending money to Zimbabwe, as in diaspora remittances that I talked about. And I was just saying to somebody over the phone, because we were talking about it, I was saying, so all the money that that person works for whilst they're in diaspora, and then they're sending foreign currency to Zimbabwe, that foreign currency is going to Dubai through the back door to help somebody. They'll be going to pay school fees for someone. A school got swallowed the other day through Makorokoza. Mining used to be a very highly regulated industry within Zimbabwe, and you hardly ever heard about sinkholes through Makorokoza causing such destruction in areas where people are. And you're hearing about it now. It's happening all the time. This is not the first time people have been affected by sinkholes or the earth falling beneath them. Miners now are being buried alive. People are sending money from diaspora, and then it ends up in Dubai. Again, the likes of Zorora Makamba, who were ZANU-PF supporters, and they were working for the Presidium. Sadly, whilst he was there, did they look after him? No, they did not. I mean, it was written all about him, that he died all on his own. Again, money that was being sent that was supposed to be used for healthcare, the likes of DJ Biscuit, Dr. People call him Mr. Obadiah Moyo. He wanted to call himself doctor or something like that. He was involved in the drug scandal. He looted money that was supposed to be used for healthcare. Then you're going to hear people that support him, that want him to be free, go about saying, I mean, people like me, we end up laughing sometimes at people that go against the things that we say. The UK government, in 2012, it was advertised that it invested $38 million in Zimbabwe's education sector through DFID in 2012. 38 million. This is well publicized. You can go and Google it. And then you're going to hear people saying, that Zimbabwe is supposed to be a sovereign country, that other countries should stay out of Zimbabwe's business. And yet money which is coming from those same organizations, it goes into Zimbabwe, then it leaves through the back door. And then you have the EU. Just earlier this year, the EU invested 209 million euros into women empowerment grant. Not even a single ZANU-PF individual went out and said, by the way, can you please help us to keep Mr. Hopewell Chingono quiet by building maternity units inside our hospitals? Can you please help us to get medication? No. They don't care about that. What they care about is taking money out and sending it to Dubai, illicit money outflows. You see, if you are somebody who is in ZANU-PF or who supports ZANU-PF and you are working and you've got your business in the diaspora, the place that your money is going to end up in Dubai, in somebody else's bank account. And the thing that hurt me is that an accountant who is not Zimbabwean, I could tell by his accent, he said 1.2 million was taken out in one run. Just one run. And then less than 99,000 actual money, cash, was brought back into Zimbabwe. That is what is called wholesale grand looting of biblical proportions. If that, even no matter how much you support ZANU-PF, you definitely have got relatives that need healthcare, that need school fees, and you will always send money to Zimbabwe. But that foreign currency which you have earned in your job, in your business, or maybe you work for somebody who is ZANU-PF affiliated, and your earnings, which you are working for them and they are supporting ZANU-PF whilst they're in diaspora, your earnings, where are they going? They're going to end up in Dubai. Let me land there for now. I don't want to say too much, but thank you very much for the space, Nkoma Hopewell. Thank you very much for hosting, and thank you very much to Ziso. I'll go back to listeners. Hopefully I'll be able to hear. I couldn't hear the last couple of speakers. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much. Muchalaira, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hopewell, for having me on the platform. And I would love to say, to thank everyone who is on the platform for listening and for actually taking time to sit here and listen to this documentary that we have been watching, or we have been, waiting for a very long time. We managed to see how grand looting has been going on in our country. My question is, guys, after watching all this first documentary, this first part of it, what are we gonna do, guys? We are so gullible and we can't do anything. We can't do absolutely anything at all. And my other question is, we have got Soko Murambwi owe us an explanation why he removed Mugabe. We want to know why he removed Robert Mugabe and replaced him with this guy who is this mafia boss that we have. And we want that explanation given to us, because we actually helped and we celebrated when Mugabe was removed. And what Mugabe did, he just said Asante Sana, which means, well, I'm not very good at Swahili, but this is what we are seeing right now. We have got the main man at the helm of it, directing operations, and he's picking all these people. It's not just this Hubert Angel. We have got Twabam as well. We have got, all the Pokelos. We have got all these little runners. They're running up and down, trading gold everywhere. So what are we going to do as Zimbabweans? What options have we got for us? Besides just sitting here and talking, and saying our opinions, we need to come up with a solution. What we need to do as of now to show the government that we are not happy, because this is so disheartening. And some of us, we ran from Zimbabwe, coming to the diaspora, trying to make ends meet. And, all we could take was probably a packet of Madora, Makimbi, and Maputi, and, come here to the diaspora. But these guys are just like shipping, gold just like that. Bags and bags of them, going back and forth the same day, going through the same airport with all the checks being done, but they just go through just like that. It's so disheartening. I don't know how to explain this, but we are in trouble, guys. We are in deep trouble. And after all, you look at the state of the country. We haven't got no functioning health system, and we have got the VP, the vice president, who is the minister of health at the same time, and he's allowing this to be happening on his watch while he's busy fighting with his baby mothers, and he's just sleeping on duty. I can't explain this, guys. It's just so disheartening. I can't wait to see the second part, and then we see where it takes us. But we have just started seeing Marakahashi coming with all these, narratives that are just unfounded. The audacity of them trying to explain, how they see it. But we all have watched it. We have seen how these people are doing it. We have seen Hubert Angel explaining himself. We have seen him making calls to Henrietta Rushwaya in front of,
in front of all these people, but they still come up and start saying, oh yeah, the CIA and all this blah, 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 blah nonsense. I don't know why people are entertaining such nonsense, but, I'm so angry with them. But anyway, I'll hand over the mic to someone else. But guys, let's stay strong, and I don't know, we have to actually influence other people to register to vote. We vote in huge numbers. We have to overwhelm the system to win this, to take our country back. I thank you very much. No, thank you very much for that intervention. I hope that, I just want to say, when we engage on these issues, let's leave their personal lives out. Let's not go lower. Let's go higher. Let's say things that are related to the issues that are affecting us, and leave their personal lives out of the discussions, because we don't want to be seen as if we are attacking people personally. Ziso, please go ahead.
Mugoma Hopewell, thank you very much for many reasons. First of all, for continuing to facilitate opportunity to discuss and debate issues pertinent to us all as Zimbabweans in the capacity that you have, and making use of the tools available to you. You're not the only one, but you've certainly flown a flag that we've all seen. We've all heard you lament many times, putting words to what we're all feeling and what we're all thinking. So we appreciate the efforts you've put behind making sure that this flame didn't die, that eventually when more light is shed on this issue, we know where we first got an indication that there's a darkness. So I just wanted to put that out there. For every Zimbabwean who's on this space, there is someone who you might consider a leader, or you yourself are known in and amongst your people as a person who is of good standing, or of a position of leadership, or of a position of relevance and significance within some manner of community, business community, educational community, whatever it may be. Society functions in little clusters. Please, from today onwards, don't just think it in your head. Communicate it up towards your leadership, your leaders, so that they have the sense that they are empowered by the people around them to say the difficult things, and where necessary, make the difficult decisions. Because this situation that Zimbabwe finds itself in will not be extinguished by micro droplets, tiny little spats here and there, a little drop of water here, a little drop of water there. It is a big burning fire, and it needs an overwhelming dousing from the feelings of Zimbabweans everywhere. It requires us all collectively to go to the highest level of what we consider leadership and empower that person or those people to begin to say what we all know we need to do. We all know that sacrifice is going to shift this needle. Anything less than that, and there is money behind the resistance. You've seen a small chink of how much money is there to resist. And they will rather use it to resist, to prove points. As Hopewell has said, they're holding on to title deeds for for a person who is actually supposed to be doing what is constitutionally right. And they're investing real hard United States dollars in cash to show resistance to what is right. So the level of pushback that they must feel from all of us, go to whoever you consider your leader, empower them. If you feel that there are words that they have been afraid to say, hesitant to say, tentative about breaching, this is the time when you say, go there. Say that thing, do that thing, because if we leave this consumptive fire will consume everything that is there, and Zimbabwe will be a scorched earth at the end. what will be left is a barren, desert-like land where once the potential was there for it to sustain its entire population while remaining green and pleasant. The resources will go. These are finite. There will be no more once what is being extracted right now is gone. If there is to be a leadership that can structure the beneficiation of every Zimbabwean, they need to know that they have people behind them. They have an empowerment behind them. Institutions are only as strong as the people who stand there and defend them. The institution of good leadership in Zimbabwe needs your energy now. All 5,000 people who are on this space. If you don't send a message to your leadership tonight before you go to bed, it's a dereliction of duty after what you've seen, because you're leaving it for who? Maybe that person needs that 5,000 push to say, you know what, 5,000 people, 10,000 people, 15, 20,000 people, whatever it represents. But they need to hear it. They can't guess. They can only go so far while they have so much support, so much motivation, so much momentum. If they need whatever we are going to tell them today to change gear, to take this to the next level, let it be done tonight. You have access to their communication channels. Empower your leaders to act in your best interests, because the people who currently have the positions of power in governance do not act in your interests. If they did, this would be something we are clapping and not something we're up at 23:45 UK time, 01:45 Zimbabwe time complaining about. They do not stand in our interests, the ones who are there. Let us ensure we overwhelm the people who we need to stand in our interests with the necessary power to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ziso, for that. Ray, please go ahead. Ray, can you hear? Ray Gwisai, can you hear me? Well, it seems we have a communication problem there with Ray. I would like to thank everybody who came to this space. Unfortunately, we couldn't get our guests onto the floor because I think it just became too big a space. So I'll arrange again, maybe Saturday or Sunday, to have another space so that you can ask your questions to the Aljazeera team that made these 4 documentary films. We've watched one of them. The other 3 are yet to come. I think they said they'll be dropping a film every week until the 4 films have been broadcast. So I would like to thank everybody who came on board. Ray, can you hear me?
Right, I can hear you. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me very well. First of all, I would like to say, Hawala, I think you've seen that. Danyara. I felt ashamed to be Zimbabwean because of those people. But anyway, I heard someone mentioning of ZAC, Zimbabwean Anti-Corruption Commission. Guys, please forget about that organization. ZAC in Zimbabwe needs its own ZAC again. Anti-corruption in Zimbabwe, not without anti-corruption. Very rotten to the core. Number 2, this is an own goal. It one is ZANU-PF, a penalty in favor of the opposition. I'm sure the leadership, the opposition in our country must utilize this chance and score, because the ball is already in the penalty box. That's another thing. I'll just go. Lastly, I would like to say, Hopewell, would you please be safe? We don't want that Khashoggi style that happening to you. Another thing, finally, and lastly, I was kindly appealing for Aljazeera to translate this documentary, or if it is not translation, maybe by voice or maybe in captions. We need this documentary to be put in the vernacular languages of Zimbabwe, at least Isindebele, Shona, or if there is Tonga or some other languages. We want this documentary to reach every corner of Zimbabwe, to reach every Zimbabwean who doesn't understand English, who doesn't hear Kanakuti. I want this thing to reach every corner, whether it's in Binga, it's in Dao. If they do not know how to translate those things in caption, we are here to help them. So say, Hopewell, would you please pass that message? We need translation in all the languages. I think with that, I'd like to say thank you, Zimbabwe. Thank you, everyone. Register to vote. Yeah, bye. I think I'll rest my case for now. Thank you, guys.
No, thank you very much for that. I think Aljazeera have done their job. If anybody wants to put it in other languages, Aljazeera won't stop them. But it's the responsibility of Zimbabweans now to do that work. But thank you so much, Ray. And I'd like to thank everybody who came to this space. And as I promised, I will host another space, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday, and make sure that we bring the Aljazeera team and they can answer your questions and so on and so forth. Thank you so much for coming.